Hey guys, my name is Mark, and today we're going behind the scenes on a new series development project involving my super multi-coated Takumars. It's still early stages, but these modified vintage beauties have been called up to the big leagues and are about to go pro. Ever since I started shooting with vintage lenses, I knew right away they would make great video lenses. So great, in fact, I had a few of my Takumars SIMMODed for video. Now, I use these lenses a lot when shooting my YouTube videos, but the ultimate goal was to eventually use them for professional production work. And that day has finally come. I can't say too much about what the project is, but it's a documentary series and it dates back to the early 1970s. So my role is to produce a 3 to 5 minute proof of concept video that introduces key characters of the story, as well as outlines various details of the plot. This format works well as it gives network executives a sense of who the characters are and how they translate on screen, plus a little taster on some of the possible style elements of the series. We will be shooting interviews as well as drama recon to help give context to the story, and the entire shoot will be about 4 days. But all this actually won't happen for a few weeks. Now, I've studied the material and the research documents and spoken to the producers, so we're all on the same page. And I did pitch them the idea of shooting this proof of concept video on my vintage Takumar lenses. Motivated by the fact that the story takes place in the early 1970s, I thought they would be a nice touch to add a level of authenticity to the visual language of the piece. They agreed, and the Takumars got the call. The lens testing is critical in any production, especially these days where things are constantly changing. New cameras, new codecs, new lenses, and post-production workflows. It's the combination of all these things that will have an impact on how the final image looks. Now, testing is a good way to stay on top of that. Knowing how your gear performs in various circumstances can really help with planning your shots and solving problems. And best of all, the end results usually get everyone involved on the same page, which is very important before any frame of actual footage is shot. The main camera I'll be using is the Panasonic Lumix S1H. And the lenses, of course, my super multi-coated Takumar SIMMODed set. Now, to adapt these M42 mounts to my S1H, it's a bit complicated. I'm still waiting for more dedicated L-mount adapters, but in the meantime, I've got the Sigma MC21 that allows me to adapt EF lenses to the L-mount. And to convert my M42 lenses to EF mounts, I'm using a Photodiox M42 to EF adapter that just simply screws on here. Then I can take this converted lens and attach it to the MC21 Sigma adapter. It's a bit crude right now, but it does the job. Definitely waiting on those dedicated adapters. I'll be using the Atomos Ninja Flame as my monitor and external recorder, and we'll be recording in 4K ProRes 422 using the camera's V-Log video output. This is the first time I'll be using this exact combo for a professional shoot, and we're slated to shoot a portion of this midday. So this is why it's important to run the test to see how it all comes together. Now, I could have just gone outside at noon to do some test shots, but I wanted a setting to capture images that conceptually resembled the real location so I could get some inspired shots. Now, that does go a long way in both finding inspiration and giving a more accurate representation of what I can expect on the actual shoot. So I went north, way north. Established in 1963, Weber's is a local landmark that most people who live in and around Toronto are familiar with. It's got the iconic pedestrian bridge overpass that was built simply to feed the demand this burger joint created. Now, I didn't come here for burgers, I came here for architecture, which, based on the research documents of the real location, are quite similar. A diner off a freeway with an overpass that was built in the 1960s. It was worth the drive to Weber's. This will not be the final location we use in our shoot. We're going to the real location for that, but this will make a good stand-in for my testing purposes. Now, I also called ahead to ask permission if I could shoot there. always good practice and courtesy given it's private property and all. Spoiler alert, they were cool with it. So one thing the Takumars don't have, say, versus the Contax Carl Zeiss line is a consistent color across all focal lengths. The 35mm f2, for example, has some yellowing due to the thoriated decay in the glass elements, which affects the color output of the lens. Doing a proper white balance before every shot should help, but it's not really ideal. Color consistency is important in a lens set. Apart from color consistency, the most important thing about this process is capturing a range of images and seeing how that image performs in post. Do we want a saturated look or desaturated look? A classic vintage look, or do we want to blow out the highlights? Do we want a clean image, or do we want to add film grain? How far do we want to take things, and where does the image start to fall apart? Testing will help us figure all that stuff out. And another critical thing I like to look at is how much focus breathing each lens has from a minimum focusing distance to infinity. Knowing the lens limitations can help us build shots around that. This kind of testing really helps figure as much of this stuff out as we can before we actually go to camera. And this won't solve all the problems. There will be problems.
No, it is unavoidable.
But testing is absolutely essential with building expectations and getting everyone on the same page. How something is packaged is so important, especially in filmmaking. Now, I could simply show a few of these shots to my producers to get some feedback, but I'm going to take it a step further. I've chosen some critical sound bites from the Zoom interviews that actually will tie these seemingly random shots into a motivated sequence. Now I'll put down some music and add some sound design and package 4 different versions of the same edit with different grades. This type of presentation triggers an emotional response as well as helps to sell a technical look, turning a rather technical lens test session into something that pushes the creative development of the series to new ground. This is definitely not required, but going that extra distance like this has a massive impact on your perceived worth. Just a little creative business 101 tip that's always worked out well for me. Alright, well this has been a bit of a different video, but thought some of you might enjoy seeing a little behind the scenes of what it's like getting a show greenlit, and how the Takumars are helping that process along. So I might do a follow-up video later to update on how the Takumars performed. Maybe with permission I can go a step further, but this TV stuff usually needs to stay under wraps. It's not even greenlit yet, so I'm probably getting a little ahead of myself. Thanks as always for watching, guys, and I'll see you next time.